So I think some of the questions that we had initially, and maybe Jeremiah, who's largely leading this effort, can help clarify some of this as well. We're not. I think we're interested in using a different version of Apple Business Manager. There's like a more premium version. Jeremiah, can you speak to that?
Yeah, no problem. So we have there's the standard business manager, which is just your base model. That's where you go to put devices. Like if you have worked with a company, whatever the case may be, you add them in as a preferred vendor, and when they purchase an Apple device, it gets enrolled in it, and that's where Intune pulls from. That's the base model. Then there's more of a Apple Business Manager Essentials, which is a fee for that, like $2.99 a month, based on per account or per device that's available, and that gives you a good amount of more features that are available, such as the ability to do some of the stuff that Intune might do, such as application deployment. What else? Application deployment. You can deploy by folders. It's kind of basically like another version of like Jamf, if you will. It does the same kind of functionality. So that's what doing the essentials unlocks for you. So yeah, we're just gonna get a better idea of like if you guys have any input, regarding. I don't know if you've worked with business essentials before, that part of it, or the paid version of it, or if you guys have just worked with just the one that you use to pull applications into, which is your base model business ABM.
Yeah, my experience is primarily around using Intune for device management and not specifically Apple Business Manager, which is what that Essentials gives you. It gives you more control, policies that you can deploy. I'm more familiar with using Intune. So that way you have your Windows devices, your Apple devices. If you have Android devices, you have them all in one place. But with that said, it may make sense, like if there's something specific that Intune doesn't do that Apple Business Manager does. Like I know Jamf has specific, niches that it voids that it fills gaps in the market that Intune doesn't do, such as like better app orchestration, more control over the updates, and basically when to push updates, when not to push updates, which is Intune. It's like, you're going by the retail clock. So when it gets pushed out, it's going to be pushed out to everybody. So, but managing devices using the Essentials upgrade, I don't have experience with, but automating the device enrollment into Intune using that vendor setup and setting up ADE for supervised devices, I do have experience with. Doesn't require Essentials, but if you don't already have it in place, it's a nice kind of jump start for new devices. Gets enrolled automatically. You essentially assign a user to the device. When that user goes through that setup assistant through Apple, it does kind of the app deployments, the configuration policies kind of automatically in the background after the user logs in. So ADE in supervised mode is what you want specifically for corporate devices. If it's a BYOD policy, then you're going to be looking at other ways to lock things down, like app protection policies is kind of your first layer.
And before we get down the application kind of pathway, let me share my screen real quick. Let me take a look at kind of where things sit. So right now we're looking at, and this is kind of to preface this a little bit further, I think we're going to start with our cell phones. So right now we're looking at 122 devices in our Apple Business Manager. We flick over to Intune. We've got one enrolled device. And I think what would be helpful is kind of what's the easy button here in terms of getting those 122 over into our Intune so we can start putting some of those policies in place.
Yeah. So if the devices already live in Apple Business Manager, do they live in Apple Business Manager, or are they?
Yeah. So we have 122 in Apple Business Manager.
Okay. So we need to sync these devices using a token. So if you go to the other screen and see where the enrollment program tokens are.
Yep.
Yeah. And then there is a token that's active, which looks like that one right there. Looks like there's 116 devices synced right now. So if you click on that right there, it's going to take you to devices, and then you can see like a list of the devices that have been synced using this token.
So do we just need to add a profile to these devices?
You essentially assign a profile. So if you click on devices on the left-hand side under manage, then if you select essentially any one of those, and I think you may be able to do multi-select, but at the top you see where it says assign profile. You should be able to assign a profile directly from here.
Just a second, I just
not sure if we have profiles.
There we go. We do. We have a couple of different profiles that were that I had created for some initial testing. But I think this is where it starts getting a little murky for us, because I think you'd mentioned in like a supervised mode, and then there's an enroll with the user affinity, and yeah, it just starts getting a little bit out of my depth in terms of all this. We want to kick open one of these just to take a look.
So this one's going to use the company portal app, which you can do. There's a newer version. There's a newer way to do it. So if you click on edit
I'm just looking. Yeah, I'm just looking at the token. This is, I believe, the
old one.
Old one. So let me jump back. What is this one? This is iOS General. So this one assign properties. Now this is still using the.
We have an agreement.
All right. So basically, we need to set up a new device enrollment profile with the new token. Is that kind of step one?
That is right.
Jason, do you mind if I record this just so I have I want to take notes and all that?
Not a problem.
Not
a problem at all.
Where's that button? All right, just to rehash what we just said. So our step one here to get all these devices pulled in is to set up a Intune profile using the most recent VPP token, which would be the one. Jump back one more here. So it'd be using our one called Microsoft Intune is our current token name.
Correct.
Is there a best practice for setting up? Because I'm not a big fan of mapping any of this to a singular account. Is there a best practice here for setting that up, maybe like a service account or something like that?
Yes, you want to create a new service account in Apple Business Manager. Make sure it's administrator or right below the administrator. I forget what the role is, but yeah, it could be, ABM admin is one that I've used in the past. Something that's more service account related is going to be your best practice.
Okay. And does it need like a device enrollment manager type permission?
No, it doesn't. It really just needs Apple Business Manager. It doesn't need a role inside of Microsoft, but it does need a role inside of here. So,
so it basically needs to be a user in here, and then any, I guess staff wouldn't work though, right? It would need to be some type of administrator or device enrollment manager.
Yeah, if you click on just one of the roles, could we see what it looks like, and I'll give you a heads up.
Jeremiah, can you guide my hand on this? Do you know where the roles live in here?
Yeah, the rules are if you go under your name, preferences. Actually, hold on. You're trying to change your user.
I just want to see like what the different role descriptions are.
Yeah.
Put an organization sentence. Say something. Oh, hold on a second. I gotta check on my side. Hold on. Let's see.
We have. If you click on the user, we might be able to check. If you click on one of the users on the left, yeah, and then just details maybe, or can we go into edit mode? Because this one is role device. So if we can edit this user, we would be able to see what roles are there. But yeah, this says device enrollment manager. It just needs to have access to the token, really, because that's what you're essentially setting. You're configuring the token with the account.
Matt, you have a right to be able to create a new user there. Probably maybe you just.
I don't know if I, as device enrollment manager, have the ability to create a different one.
You have it.
I do.
Yeah, in Apple Business Manager.
Okay. So how do I do that?
Add user.
Users. Where's add user?
Go back to the screen that you're sharing here. Hold on, I was clicked off for a second. Where you at? Oh, actually, you may not. Hold on, let me see what your role is. I thought you have the same role.
Yeah, there's a grayed out add button at the top.
Yes.
Yeah, I see it.
All right, we can do that later. We're not going. Yeah. We don't need to do that right now. But basically, some type of administrator type role or elevated role within Apple Business Manager can give us our new token. Because I'd like to renew this token not under either of these Apple IDs, like brand new Apple ID that's more service account oriented.
That's right. Yeah.
And then once we have that new token, we just need to assign the token to a deployment profile.
Yes. So there is all of the devices that are already in there. So if you click on enrollment program token.
This one right here?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. And then click on, so we're going to create a new one, essentially. But right now, all devices are being synced by that second token, right?
Yeah.
So when you create a new one, you're going to create, assign it with a new Apple ID. And you're going to need to download the token from Apple Business Manager as well. There are steps. There's maybe that Learn More will tell you, but there's a very official Microsoft document for setting up these tokens for integration. But that's generally the steps there.
Okay. All right. So once we get our token renewed under a new account, we get it assigned to a profile, and then we just push the profile to the new devices. Is that pretty much
right? To the existing devices, and then also for new devices, you can set up. So if you go back to enrollment for iOS, and then so that'll be for new devices as well. So anytime a new device gets synced to Apple Business Manager, it's automatically going to be synced to Intune. And as a part of that, new device configuration, an admin has to come in and you can assign a profile. You can also set it up to have a default profile assigned to it in Apple Business Manager. So if you go to Apple Business Manager, there's a way to, I think it's under preferences. So your name in the bottom left, and then preferences. And then you see where it says MDM server assignment? Yeah, right there. And so you see where it says default? If you click edit there, right there. And so you see how it says Microsoft Intune now? So that's the one that I think is set up with the previous account. So these should be changed once that new token is created, so that it's being assigned by default, and that way an admin automatically that profile will be assigned. It's nice when you really only have one profile, but if you have multiple profiles, then you have to go and pick which one applies. But in this case, once you create a new token, you're going to want to come in here, and whatever you name it to, Intune MDM, Apple MDM, whatever the name is, you'll have to select it here and set it.
Okay. And just so I'm familiar with how this all comes together, the VPP token, does that correspond with so I noticed that
No, that's different.
This one's called Microsoft Intune, and we're calling this Microsoft. Is there parity between those two fields or no?
Yes, there is. But the VPP token is different. So VPP is like if you go to tenant administration on the left, there's another token. And then if you scroll down a bit, connectors, sorry, gotta go up a bit. I think I missed it at the top. Connectors, there it is. And then see where it says Apple VPP token? Yeah, so this also, will need to be, I would use the service account that you create to create that token to also create this token. And this is for app deployment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So we need to get good on our token management then with all this stuff.
And then you need the push certificate as well, right? For
Yes.
so the apps, yeah.
Yep.
So that needs to be up there. Yeah.
With that new service account as well. Yeah. So
All right. So we're gonna have 2 tokens and a cert. Does that sound?
Yes, it does. That sounds right.
That's how because I was saying they pull from each other, so that's the only way it's gonna pull from Apple Business Manager. But I think do we need to have a conversation in-house, I guess, before we do all this to figure out because if we're going to be using Apple ABM, then we don't need to pull it in here. So I guess before we do all this, we need to figure out, I'm still in the process of scheduling a meeting with Apple to go over what the pros and cons are on their end if we go that direction. But if we do go that direction, we may not need to pull them in here, possibly.
That's correct, yeah. If you don't want to use Intune and that kind of works better for you, then it'll all be in Apple Business Manager.
I guess from a robustness of solution, I would assume Intune would be a little bit better. Is that a fair assessment, or is it does it have good parity?
Oh,
I think it's close. Go ahead.
Yeah. I know. I think for me, if we can have it in just one umbrella for us to have this, that would be good. Just as I said in the last meeting that we had, but if not, we're breaking it up into being managed in 2 different areas is something that we may deal with. But to be honest, having it managed under one umbrella, that makes it easier. One question that I want to ask is that if we go through this route, what kind of experience will those who are using these devices? What do we expect them to do, or how is going to affect them? Because we may need to communicate with them. Maybe they see some changes coming into their hand, and so that none of them freaks out.
Yeah. So for existing devices, they're from a enrollment standpoint, they're already so if you go, for example, if you look at if you just go to devices on the left and then iOS by platform, there you go. Let's see. So these devices are not yet enrolled. There's only one device that is enrolled. That profile assignment, that is for a brand new device that is it doesn't apply to existing devices, meaning it's not just going to suddenly enroll existing devices. When you're assigning that profile, let's say that requires that device to be reset back to factory in order for it to be assigned that profile. So for existing devices, the only way to assign an MDM profile, if you're going to use Intune, remember, they're already in Apple Business Manager. They're not yet enrolled in here. If the decision is made to enroll into Intune, then existing for new devices, yes, you assign a profile, they open it up as a brand new device, they go through the enrollment, they're going to be in Intune. But for existing devices that are just in Apple Business Manager, have only been synced, and think of that sync as like an onboarding. It's not actually an enrolled state. It's an onboarded state. Those existing devices you can't enroll them like automatically. They have to be enrolled for existing devices. The only way to enroll is through the company portal app. So it's an application that the user can download from the App Store and then log in with their work account. And then it will take them through an enrollment of that device. But outside of that, there isn't a automated way to enroll existing devices into Intune.
Yeah. So, Toby, if I'm correct here, we're getting ready to roll out some new devices, and this is where we're interested, is putting these new profiles on those brand new devices. Is that accurate?
That is correct. Or more importantly, we're looking to not have to go back and touch. If we give a new device out next week or 2 weeks from now, we're looking to not have to go back and touch the end user's device. So if we can deploy them before we work and finalize this solution, and then once we finalize the solution, it doesn't actually impact the end user, then I'm fine with that. But I'm trying to avoid a double touch if we can.
Yeah, sounds like based on how all this will come together, once we deploy a profile, anything based on what Jason said, any existing devices won't be auto-enrolled, but anything new can be? Is that fair to say?
Yep.
All right.
So just the company portal is needed. I think I was saying, do we have, and I don't know if we do, but even if we deploy the company portal, we have to have a set of apps listed that are available on the company portal. Otherwise, the user won't be able to use those apps.
And you can set up a blank company portal. It just doesn't do any good.
That's the problem.
It'll enroll an existing device, though.
Yeah, it'll enroll it, but then again, then those users, they'll be stuck not being able to use. And okay, so that's another piece.
They'll still be able to get the apps, though. Like, they're already logged into the device with their iCloud account, so they'll still be able to like get to the company portal app. They'll be able to enroll the device. But any apps that you want to publish, you can publish directly to the company portal app via Intune. There's like policies for that, very simple ones.
So I think where we didn't want to be is having users sign in with their personal iCloud accounts.
Right.
We wanted to have an iCloud account that was consistent in managing all GSL-owned devices. What is that? Is that a different process?
Yeah, so if they're logged in currently with a personal iCloud account, the problem is when you move them to another iCloud account, they lose all their apps and everything that essentially was connected to that other personal iCloud account. So it is like, so you can there's a couple approaches. Like, so where I've seen this is when you go to turn on Apple Business Manager, there's this federation that happens, and Apple Business Manager will come and say, hey, these, 50, I'm just throwing out an arbitrary number here, these 50 email addresses essentially are being used, but as personal, on the personal iCloud now. So there's this difference between personal iCloud and what they call a managed iCloud identity.
Not to interrupt you, Jason, but we
Yeah,
already
go
turned
for
it
it.
on. We already turned it on, so we already saw that they already did the domain capture. So
Cool.
on the 7th, all those accounts that are using the domain on the 7th of next month, they will be pulled in, and then we'll have to start issuing. If they're not doing the transfer,
Yeah.
on the 7th, by the 7th, I want to say all accounts that are set up with using a GSL account, it's either going to be returned to us or it's going to be transferred into business managers. So ultimately, we'll have control of all those domain named GSL accounts.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know what effect will it have on those users. I'm concerned about people that are having those devices, and I don't want a situation whereby we have this is done and then you guys are being inundated with calls or with things that probably made their devices are not functioning the way it was functioning before.
Right. So on that front, I mean, we can talk about it. I know we're running long time here, but on the back end of that, the way it's going to be affected is those apps are going to be affected at the end of the day. That's the biggest thing that's going to be affected. Those guys that are on the road that use like the flight apps, American Airlines, et cetera, if those apps are not in Apple Business Manager's store, they won't be able to use those apps on their phone. So that's why I've been actively working with the managers of some of these teams to gather a list of apps so that when they get pulled in, they won't be affected. So that's kind of like step one that I'm working on with the Apple Business Manager end. Now, if we decide to go to Intune direction versus the Apple Business Manager, we can make that decision, later, and then we'll have the apps available there for them. But as it is now, they're going to be in the store. So I already have a reasonable amount of apps in the store for them available. And I've tested with a few users, just to kind of see what their experience is. And once they move in, what happens? And what happens is they're not affected immediately. However, if they try to do an update, let's say, for example, they're using American Airlines app, right? And they can use it once their account is pulled in because once they switch over or transfer, it doesn't delete the app from their phone. The app still is available there. But when they go into the Apple Store to try to do an update, it will give them that you're not authorized to use this app. So it's going to work until they try to do an update.
So when they try to do an update, and it tells them that what is the next step for them to do?
The next step for them to do is delete the app and reinstall it because the app is available in the Apple Store. But once they reinstall it, they should be fine. Because now it's under the umbrella.
Yeah, so that means that we have some quote unquote pain points for them to do for activities that they have to do. So, right. And I think we need to find a way to be able to see if we can be able to minimize that, because a lot of them may not be that tech savvy to know this is what I need to do or things. If not, the way inundate us with calls or tickets that things are not working. So right. We need to put a process around that to ensure that at least their experience with it is a little bit painless if we are going through this route.
Yeah, that's and I agree. I think because we're still working on the final communication for the comms. We can, I mean, it's up to you guys if you want to go that route. We can add those small little footnotes in the comms so they know kind of what to expect there, because we already have like a basic how it should work kind of thing going out, or being worked on right now. But we can add like that specific piece of it just so they, so they know. So I can work with Audrey to make sure she add that footnote in there, so that the users know.
Yeah, if I understand very well, if if you are going to the Apple Business, we will have that issue. If we are going to the Intune, we don't have it. Is that my understanding?
So far, that's what I'm gathering. I don't think you're going to have it that way. The only problem is, unless we're going to be going to Intune before the 7th, we're going to have the issue either way. So I think either way we have to get it out there. And if we decide to go Intune, then we should be fine after the 7th. But the 7th is pretty much around the corner, so yeah, they're going to be affected. Yeah, they're going to be affected before we make our decision. Anyway.
Real quick, guys. Since we're at time, was there anything else we needed Jason for? Are we comfortable with the process and how to kind of roll this out?
I think I'm good for now with
I think he's on speed dial if I'm not wrong.
I'm right here, guys. So just let me know.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Appreciate the time today, Jason. Thank you.
No problem. Bye, guys.
Nice.